ドクターガオーなんちゃって。
What is going on, YouTube? This is The Last Musketeer, and welcome to part 14 of the Arknights free-to-play progression series. So, starting out, before I talk about anything else, I want to talk about Dorothy, because I have been waiting for this one for quite some time, and I put it off just because I thought, you know, honestly, she does a fantastic job just at E1 alone. But while I still agree with that, knowing just how good she is at E2 with that skill 3, it's a game-changing experience. Dorothy's just one of those ops that's just can do basically everything you need her to do. And while I'm not going to talk about the module that she's going to get in the future, because it is spoilers and I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, it is a major upgrade and it's going to make her even better. But moving on to another one that I'm excited to talk about is Suzu, because when I first got her, I wasn't sure just how good she was. I never really saw anybody use her or anybody ever talk about her other than for the meme purpose. So once I started using her, I understood just how good she is with that fragile debuff on the enemies and the slow, especially with the skill 3. It's a fantastic option for a lot of my clears, and I've started using her a ton. Basically, she is a mainstay, and honestly, paired with Mystima, it's a fantastic option for keeping everything in place, just being a massive bully to most of these units. Honestly, it's a good change, because for the longest time, before you get an actual decent lineup, most of the stages are not particularly too hard, but they become a bit of a just overpowered kind of situation. And now at this point, I can just relax and know that anytime I get in a rough situation and I need to kite or stall for a while, I can just activate those two and most of my problems will be taken care of. Though I will say, maybe because I am doing this more often, I'm forgetting my basic principles and making some really bad placements, which is, it is what it is. I think if you do beat the stage, regardless of how your placements went, that's all that really matters. So I'm not too worried about making a fool out of myself with some dumb placements. I very much enjoy that. And I think for the most part people do enjoy watching stuff like that. But Dorothy was a great option for this stage because every hit with her S3 is going to slow everything that is in range of the explosion, and it does have a very big range. So having that option in a stage like this where every hit counts basically just makes it a cakewalk. So I can make sure that even if I'm not using the fastest attackers for getting rid of the things that spawn from the enemies, I at least have the option of slowing them down to the point where they are going to guarantee their damage. So that is this one done, and we will move on to the next. But before I talk about the next one, I did hit level 70, so goodbye level 69, you will be missed. But we did get the free enhancement pack, and unfortunately I can't buy the level 70 pro enhancement pack yet because I am very much short on my Originium. So at some point, you know, I will get it, maybe a little while down the road, but I've got to do some farming before I get to that point. Luckily, I do still have a lot of stages to do, a lot of challenge modes to do, so I'm going to have plenty in the future, and I guess at this point I should be trying to save up as much as I can and build as much as I can towards Yano Walter, because that is who I'm really probably wanting to get next. But it's going to take a little bit of farming for that, and trying to guarantee the 120 so that I get the guaranteed pity may be a little out of reach in that time, but we'll see what I can come up with. I think for the most part, the last few times that I've had some big pulls, I've really come through, my luck has been there, so I'm not too worried about it right now. But also, I want to say, in this video, a lot of the CCs will loop, but I did not do a duplicate of any of the stages. I just did the ones that I had the most fun with on the risks. So you're only going to see the stages once each. I know people are probably tired of CC at this point. I don't want to overload you with content that you've been seeing for the last 2 weeks. But for the most part, when it comes to showing these progression videos, I got to show you everything that I do. So I do apologize if there's not more content out there other than just CC, but when the next event comes out, we'll have some new, refreshing content, and hopefully it'll be a little more entertaining than just watching the CC again. But for this risk, I did the second rotation of this map because I did like this clear a little more. I borrowed a Surtur because what is better than dealing with Viviana's absolute nuke with the resistance ignore than using someone that's nigh immortal. So Surtur was the perfect option for baiting Viviana into that spot for the longest time. Yeah, she did take out my Gavialter and my Thorns and my Quora, but I did have Swire 2 drop to finish the top lane, and then I had Texalter help to clean everything up. So that one was pretty easy after that point. Now this one is also the second rotation of the map because I think for the most part it felt like the second rotations were a little harder than the first ones. Granted, most of the clears that I do are not that great. Honestly, there's kind of a lot of mistakes in them, but you know, at this point I just kind of unga-bunga a lot of these stages. Even if I lose most of my lineup, as long as I get the job done, I'm perfectly fine with that. So the main thing is that I decided to go in and try to take most of it out with range units. For the most part, you don't necessarily want to deal with anything on this map with melee units because, especially if you're blocking the Basin Sea Reapers, it's going to cause a lot more damage than it is good. So you want to kind of let them run by as quick as possible, but I was using Dorothy to slow them, which was, honestly, I just kind of did it to see if people could survive things. It wasn't the smartest decision, obviously, but it was kind of fun, in all honesty. But between Mestima, the slow from that, and then dropping Texalter for a little bit of bait, you could get them down fairly quickly without actually even having to use Posy's ability to try to chip them down a little faster. So I was able to save it to use it just against the little mini bosses and the eggs. Those are realistically the only two things on this map that actually make it a little bit difficult, because while the Sea Basin Reapers are annoying, if I can kite them long enough, they will eventually, though I do believe this is the risk that made it to where the Reapers took less damage over time when they're activated. So that is why you see most of them getting close to the gate, or basically at the gate at that point. So I used Texalter a lot for the stun, just to kite them a little bit longer. Then I had to drop gravel here to make sure that it did not go by. So at this point, all I've got to do is take out the last of the mini boss and then this last Reaper. So I use Mestima to slow it down for a little bit, then activate Posy's ability to finish it off. And we are back with Suzu. So I did farm the pieces that I need to finally take her to E2. And we did, and it's a fantastic upgrade. And like I was talking about earlier, such a fantastic unit. I didn't realize just how beneficial she was going to be for me until I actually took her to E2 and tried it out. I've used her in IS3 runs multiple times at this point. I've even been choosing her over Gnosis for those runs, and Gnosis is fantastic in IS3. It's just how much she brings to the table. But that heal on top of that is a nice little extra additive that helps me for IS3 runs when I don't get lucky enough to get the medic pulls. So now having the extra SP recovery rate for supporters is really nice as well. It's going to help me keep Gnosis ability active a little bit faster. But now we move on to the stage that is the last CC, and actually my first CC ever, CC 10. This one was, in my opinion, probably the most fun that I've had in a CC so far because of the map's mechanic. It is very nice, and the fact that the boss is here in this fight is even better because it gives me the full-on experience kind of over again. So I get the full enjoyment of it once again, but I have Texalter this time for the casters. Last time I just used a bait to make sure that Mudrock didn't have to take that. So Mudrock is going to solo the left side, Thorns is going to do a lot of damage on the right side, and I borrowed Calsted just to make sure that Monster is going to have the pure damage that I need to help take out Manfred or anything that comes by. It makes it just a little bit easier on me overall. So I ended up sticking Gavialter into the other Steam vent for the Invis, just to make sure that she's going to be alright from taking damage for a little while. Manfred is attacking Perfumer though, which can be a problem, but since I can reset his attack speed with his talent with Texalter stun, I just go ahead and do that just to make sure that he is not going to be a problem for me. Though I did mess up and got Mudrock nuked on the left side instead of trying to get Manfred hit with the stun. So that was a bit of a problem, but it was nothing that I couldn't recover from. I did have Swire to drop to get rid of the caster, and she's going to help on that left side for the moment. But I did have Korra down and survive just long enough to get hit with the nuke so that Manfred would go down. So I got his first phase gone. Calcit is ready up top with the ability to get rid of the other ones, and then I drop Mudrock here just so that Mudrock is going to take a little pressure off of Monster for the moment, because he did get really low after that nuke and he was being targeted still. So what I did after was drop Gavialter. Since she is E2, she had the 3 block, which guarantees that Manfred is going to get hit again. I didn't drop anything early enough to get a lot of damage on him, but I did drop Blue Poison a little bit after, just to get a little more. So at this point, what I need him to do is walk into range of Monster, but he's going to loop around again before he goes up. So at this point, with as fast as they are charging the cannon, I can drop Korra and then drop a couple damage dealers to deal with Manfred here at the end. So this is going to basically be the end of the run. Everything else from this point is just making sure that I have a blocker available, but I do have 3 life points still available, so I could have leaked the 2 on the right side, but I decided to take them out anyway because, well, at this point I can, so why not? Alright, so for this one, I basically took the risk 3 for the flamethrower, so he's going to be invisible, and he's going to do a lot more damage with a faster skill cooldown, which, not necessarily that big of a deal. I can do kind of the same strat that I did last time. I'm going to have to be a little more careful, though, because I'm going to have to drop units to actually block the flame guys. So they are going to be more susceptible to getting hit by the fireballs, and with as much health as those advocators have, they don't go down too easy. So what I decided to do was borrow a Spectre Altar just to try to take a little of the pressure off, and of course I didn't do it well enough to keep her alive the first time because I really needed to drop her earlier so that she'd have her skill active. I was a bit delayed in that, and because of that I took some extra damage everywhere else, but with Perfumer's skill active and the overall healing that she does, I was able to keep them alive and not have to worry about losing any of my lineup. So now I just have to make sure that none of the gargoyles get through, because everything else at that point is not too hard to deal with, but I do have Suzu to, with her skill active, basically keep the gargoyle from getting through. Now at this point, Tex Alter is basically going through and trying to stun and keep everything corralled as much as possible, because I don't have Suzu's ability up and I don't have Mystima's ability up at the moment, so the gargoyle is pushing quite fast. He is a very, very tanky lad, but with the slows and having Suzu there now with it active, the slow was just enough to get it done. Spectre Alter got rid of the Advocator on the right side, and then I just dropped Tex Alter again to get rid of the last flame guy. So that is done. That one, not that hard of a risk. If you have the right options, it becomes pretty easy. But a big upgrade that we did was taking Dorothy's S3 to M3. Now for this CC, I don't think I've ever seen this one before. I don't know when this was added or where it came from. I don't think I actually did this in the last CC rotation, but I could be wrong. There may be something I missed. It's been a while since the last CC came through, so this one honestly really wasn't that bad. I think for the most part the boxes were just kind of annoying, and making sure that civilians survived was the main thing, but as long as I get everything through, the last 2 guys were the ones that got buffed from the risk. So basically I just had to make sure that I didn't lose any lives before that, and then I can just leak those 2 guys at the end, which is what I did. But first, before I leaked them, I threw basically all my squad at them, and everyone got knocked out because the guys do a lot of damage. But I just wanted to see if dropping as much as I possibly could to get rid of the damage would do enough. But obviously, you gotta be a little smarter with how you place them. I just kind of threw things in there over and over again, just because, you know what, I might as well. I was free to let them leak regardless, but These guys hit like an absolute nuke when they are not being blocked and when they go below 50% HP. I think is the threshold. I could be wrong. It could be a little bit lower. But either way, they hit a ton at that point. So you'll see everyone just basically get decimated as he switches to the next thing. One after the other. Everyone's getting one shot. Even Gavialder wasn't enough to take him down in time. So basically, yeah, they both got through. But like I said, I did have extra health to spare, and you know, honestly, I got my first full medal set. I know most of them are not that hard to do, but I generally don't go for medal sets. But since I was already pretty close to doing it, and most of the stuff is just stuff you do on CCs normally, I figured, you know what, I might as well go for a full medal set. So it's kind of a cool milestone, I guess, for me. But looking at the end of the video, checking out my current roster, I've got a decent setup here, and I've been leveling up Suzu a little bit more over time because I'm going to try to get to her module at some point here, but that may be a little bit down the road because they are very expensive, and while I have been saving up a little bit of LMD, I'm not too keen on spending it all right away. So basically, we'll get her to the point where she can use the module, and maybe I'll do the module in the next video. I'm not sure. We'll see what my LMD looks like. I know there's some other ones that I still need to get the module for that I have been saving up for a little bit for. I just kind of get sidetracked at times and forget which one I'm actually working on. But Dorothy will be one in the future for sure, so when her module comes out, I am getting that as soon as possible. But at this point, I was trying to decide what operator I actually wanted to E2 next. So my first thought is probably Ifrit. Ifrit is insanely good, and though she is kind of niche in some situations where it's really, if you're looking for an Ifrit lane that she is so good, it could be the option. But probably the one that I should put up the most, the one that I've been holding off on for the most amount of time now, is probably Saria. Saria is a fantastic unit, and she's going to be extremely helpful just with the healing for the extra skill point to whoever she healed. The skill 3 is going to be amazing as well. It's probably the best choice and probably the one I'm looking at next. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of saving because I spent a decent amount of my LMD taking her to 80. But I will probably do that one next. If anybody has suggestions for something that I should look for, something I should try out maybe next, then I'm down to do that. Eunectus is another option that I thought about, just because I want someone who can try to 1v1 a boss. It seems a lot of fun, in my opinion. I just don't know how often I'd be able to use her outside of boss fights, but I did need a boss killer, so she could be the answer I'm looking for. Penance, another one that needs to be leveled up, but probably going to be a little while on that because I do have Mudrock, and she's going to take care of most of the problems that I would use Penance for, so we'll see what happens in the future. But I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.